It's been 6 months since a 20-year-old Iowa man drowned while in Highway Patrol custody at the Lake of the Ozarks. Trooper Anthony Piercy pulled over Brandon Ellingson when he suspected Ellingson was drinking and boating. Since, the search for answers has yielded more questions as the investigation into the death continues.
Right now, the Highway Patrol is still looking into it, and Ellingson's family is pushing for a federal investigation while pursuing a civil lawsuit. In a special report, ABC 17's Heather Hourigan has done her own digging and investigating, and she's uncovered recordings and videos showing what happened moments and days after Ellingson's drowning.
Because a memory card like this was missing from Trooper Piercy's boat on that Saturday in May, means there's no concrete proof how Ellingson fell off the boat. I've gathered phone records, dispatch calls, video from other boats, and listened to eyewitness accounts trying to determine what happened. But even after months of investigating, the question still remains. Who is responsible for Ellingson's death? The trooper who did not follow protocol, those who failed to properly train him, or did Ellingson's actions cause his own death? Whatever the case, what I did uncover was a pattern of truth stretching, ranging from spin to distorting the story.
I don't know if I'm sore from treading water with the bastard, but I just go spin. I thought I could run a marathon.
This video is from the first boat to respond to assist Piercy that Saturday evening and shows him talking with his superiors moments after Ellingson's drowning. After spending 18 years on the road in the Highway Patrol, May marked Piercy's second summer on the water. He pulled over Ellingson and his 6 friends after they left Coconut's Bar and Grill around 5:15 that evening. After ordering Ellingson on his boat, Piercy gave Ellingson sobriety tests and then arrested him, while Ellingson's friends watched just feet away. All of them were later interviewed by Highway Patrol.
And that life jacket, it was an orange one, and it was already strapped up and everything, and he just put it over him. He was already handcuffed, just put it over him.
Records I obtained show that was Piercy's first mistake. He needed to put Ellingson in a Type 1 life vest. This type of life vest that goes around a person's head, so even if they are handcuffed, their head would float to the surface of the water. But Ellingson was in a Type 3 life vest like the one Andrea is wearing here, and he was able to get out of this life vest when he was struggling in the water because Piercy did not put his arms through the armpit holes, something Captain Kendall, the commander of Troop F, did not want dispatch to report.
So the life jacket did come off in the water?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, it went come off over the top of his head.
Oh. Was it just one of those orange ones that slips over the head?
No, it was. We don't need to put this in a message or anything, or in a message, but it's one of those real good ones that wraps around you like a ski vest. It was a full life jacket, but Tony didn't have his arms run through it.
When Piercy got his boat back to Ellingson in the water, he reached for him with a pole.
One of the girls said, "Go get him," and I dove in, and he was underwater, and I went, well, I don't know how long we were under. But I couldn't get a hold of it.
While Piercy was in the water and struggling himself, according to multiple accounts, his fanny pack vest never inflated. Sergeant Randy Henry, who spoke with Piercy the night Ellingson drowned, tells investigators Piercy did not know the ripcord to inflate his vest even existed.
I said, "Tony, did you inflate your life jacket?" He said, "I was waiting for it to auto-inflate." I said, "Tony, those life jackets don't auto-inflate." He said, "Oh, I thought they did." Yeah, pull the ripcord.
4 days later, Sergeant Henry runs into Piercy at the office where they talked again.
He kind of went over it through again, and he said something about, "Man, if I would just pull my ripcord," then he didn't say nothing about it when auto-inflate again. When I asked him, I don't remember how the conversation went, but I could tell that he didn't want to go down that road.
But he had to talk about it again at a Morgan County coroner's inquest September 4th. The coroner called the inquest to determine the manner of Ellingson's death. 6 jurors listened to testimony and deliberated for only 8 minutes to find Ellingson's death was accidental, what the Morgan County coroner thought all along.
I think they made the right call. After reading everything, and I sat down and, going through that thing for 4 or 5 times trying to find things, I think it was an accident.
The decision prompted a special prosecutor not to file criminal charges. No video was allowed in the courtroom during the inquest, but I requested and received the transcript of Piercy's account to the jurors. His story and his understanding of his safety equipment seemed to change. I knew that it was not the auto inflate, so I dove in at that point for him, going on to say while crying, and I was trying to get that ripcord pulled or to find it, and I knew I couldn't get it with one hand. I briefly let go of Mr. Ellingson to pull the life jacket apart to find that ripcord. Again, recordings suggest Piercy did not know about the ripcord on the vest. Sergeant Henry, the source of that information about the ripcord, was told his account of things was not needed by investigators. Phone calls I obtained show Captain Gregory Kindle wanted to be selective with what dispatch sent out.
And as far as the situational reporting, do you want me to exclude MIAC?
Yeah, don't send it to MIAC just yet. Yeah. Okay. And I don't even know. I'd just send it to Troop F staff for right now and Major Johnson. Don't send it to the whole troop.
Car 3. Oh, I'm going to send it to radio.
Yeah, radio
just not
and
MCD officers.
Superintendent staff. Yeah, I wouldn't do MCD officers, and I wouldn't do MIAC.
MIAC is the Missouri Information Analysis Center, and its work with federal agencies could have given those agencies access to the information. Minutes later, new information came in and dispatch asked again about what to send.
Do we need to send out another message to the select few, or just what's been sent out is good? And
yeah, what was in that first message is pretty factual, actually.
Okay.
The ones that need to know about the life jacket issue.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that anywhere.
As this conversation continued, it was getting dark and the search for Ellingson's body was called off, even though Highway Patrol had this clear sonar image of Ellingson 80 feet underwater.
His dad is 7 times as pissed off that we're not going to die tonight.
Yeah, well.
And I understand. I mean, I got that, but I'm not going to get somebody hurt trying to recover somebody that's dead.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
And I wanted to tell him he's not going to be any more dead in the morning than he is right now.
Probably wouldn't have appreciated that very much.
The patrol recovered Ellingson's body about 18 hours after he went under. During that time, Sergeant Henry says a lot was discussed among the officers on the water, including whether the speed of Piercy's boat played a role in the incident, something that was never brought up at the inquest.
I wasn't going real fast because it was real choppy. I'm guessing 15, 20, 100
But GPS records I have show Piercy's boat reaching speeds of 46 miles per hour. This is a look at just how fast that is on a boat. Ellingson was in the co-captain's seat. Keep in mind, his feet couldn't touch the ground, hands were behind his back, and the edge of the boat was just a foot away. Ellingson's father was in disbelief when he first stepped on the boat.
No, they don't touch.
But how tall are you?
I'm 6'1". I'm 3.5 inches taller than my son.
With the coroner's inquest calling it an accident and the state declining to file charges, Craig Ellingson, Brandon's father, is running out of options. He says he's fighting for the truth, a fact some in the patrol thought would be the standard.
I brought it up. I said, guys, they're going to want full transparency on this thing. I said, we need to ask ourselves, did he use the highest degree of care here? There's Missouri Statute 306-125.
Turn it off.
Well,
stop.
Yeah, that gets back into.
Just turn it off. We'll turn it off.
That recording may end there, but Craig Ellingson tells me he is nowhere near ending his fight for his son.
We'll get justice eventually with digging deeper into it, and people are going to have to step up and tell the truth and quit hiding and shoving it under the rug.
I've reached out to Highway Patrol multiple times for this story to see if they would like to comment. Each time I'm told no one can talk because of pending litigation. That is also what Piercy's lawyer told me. I've also not been able to get a clear answer as to what exactly Piercy's punishment was. Sources tell me it was a 5-day suspension and he has been back patrolling the roads. In the meantime, hearings are underway around the state about the 2011 Highway Patrol Water Patrol merger. The merger put Water Patrol under Highway Patrol command. So far in the hearings, the truth has come out that road officers working on the waterways have not been trained properly. In another report I'm working on, I'll show you how little accountability troopers patrolling the water have had and what changes Highway Patrol may be making.
Tonight, we know U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder is saying that he'll be looking into the drowning of a man at the Lake of the Ozarks while that man was in Highway Patrol custody.
It's a story ABC 17's Heather Hourigan has been following since this summer when 20-year-old Brandon Ellingson was arrested on suspicion of boating while drinking. He fell overboard and drowned while he was still handcuffed.
Heather's investigation continues tonight, looking into whether highway troopers working on the water are trained adequately. In a special report, Heather tells us the training was changed in 2011 with the merger of Water Patrol into Highway Patrol. Heather.
It has now been nearly 4 years since the merger of Highway Patrol and Water Patrol. For the first time since Governor Jay Nixon signed House Bill 1868, representatives are taking an in-depth look at if this merger is working. While the hearings were called just months after Ellingson's drowning, no one in Highway Patrol or those on the committee are saying these hearings are a direct result of his death, but a culmination of incidents. What I discovered after going to the hearings, talking to retired patrolmen, and poring through documents, or lack thereof, is the transparency of Highway Patrol's water training is anything but clear.
I think the merger to this point has been inefficient. I think it has put the public safety at risk, and it has not saved any money. So it has not done what it was touted to do.
Representative Rocky Miller has been at all 5 merger hearings. While he tells me he is disappointed with things he learned over the last few months, people should feel safer on Missouri's waterways. So you say they're safer now. Were they safe before May 31st?
I think that they were lacking in training. Therefore, the public safety was at risk during that time.
The time Trooper Anthony Piercy pulled over Brandon Ellingson for drinking while boating. In my last special report, I showed how there were several protocols Piercy did not follow leading up to Ellingson going overboard, such as putting Ellingson in the wrong type of life vests, driving the boat at an excessive speed, and allegedly not knowing how to inflate his own vest.
Why is someone on the water that doesn't know which life vest to put on an individual? So that's why we're doing it.
Diane Franklin is the head of the committee looking into the success of the merger.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your presence here today.
She said many people came to her concerned after hearing about the coroner's inquest in September. It was during the inquest Piercy blamed his wrong decisions on his lack of training. Here's some of the transcript of what he said. His lawyer asked Piercy, quote, as part of that hypothetical exercise, were you taught and critiqued on how to handcuff a suspect and secure them in a life vest? Piercy said no, we were not. He also said no when his lawyer asked if he was ever trained where to put a suspect on the boat after an arrest. But if Piercy would have been required to complete the Troop F Marine Training Guide, he would have learned such things. Matt Walls, a current Highway Patrol supervisor and previous water patrolman, wrote the Marine Training Guide after the merger for road officers wanting to work on the water. Representative Don Phillips asked Walls at the 3rd hearing if his guide was being followed.
Your knowledge, are we doing that now?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I learned that so far, only 1 road trooper has completed the training guide.
If you're not trained to do a job and you're going out to do it, there's just no defense when things don't go well.
Road troopers working part-time on the water are referred to as supplemental officers. Piercy was a supplemental officer. Before May 31st, there was no set training requirements for these troopers, according to Sergeant Randy Henry, who testified at 2 of the hearings.
At this time, no set protocol. It was just an email of what these officers were expected to be able to perform.
Henry is referring to this email sent from Lieutenant Darwin Clarity to Zone Sergeant, stating, prior to turning them loose solo, let's have either Randy or Chris send me an IOC, simply stating they have demonstrated a reasonable level of competence in Donzi navigation. Donzi being the type of boat Highway Patrol uses. Quite frankly, this limited group of officers gives me no concern on judgment, interaction, enforcement, etc. But navigational wherewithal on a lake, like that is something we need to have some oversight of.
So they had that kind of initiative going forward to send the part-time or the supplementals out, and that's what happened at the Lake of the Ozarks. That's why the Clarity could send out Officer Percy.
Because of that email, this was the only test Piercy had to pass in order to be on the lake. 5 questions about geography, nothing about life vests or speed. Why do you think there was kind of this blatant disregard for Marine operations training for some of these road troopers?
I think they didn't understand how different being on the water was. And so then when they went to train on the water or actually enforce on the water, they started discovering how different it was. And I just don't think they reacted quick enough.
Former water patrolmen were horrified to hear this could be happening.
It's criminal to think that we're putting people in boats, expecting them to do a job in a maritime environment when we don't, if we don't, and I'm not saying we do not, but if we don't provide them with the most swimming training that they can get.
I have requested all of Piercy's training records, and I'm still waiting to receive his swimming test results, something Patrol has not been able to produce yet. So did he even take one?
There was great concern. Some of these part-timers couldn't even did take the final swim test at the academy. For whatever reason, they were hurt, whatever, they graduate from the 4-week boat class. They didn't even take the test, much less pass it.
All of Trooper Anthony Piercy's documents have not just been a struggle for me to get my hands on. Representative Franklin feels Highway Patrol was not fully transparent during the hearings.
I think that it bothered them that we were somewhat persistent, that they gave us answers and that they thought that would be the end of it. Gave you your information. Thank you very much.
But did you feel like they really did give you all the answers you guys were looking for?
No. I found that we had to ask the right question.
Franklin was also not able to get a clear answer about all troopers passing a swimming test from the training director, Vince Rice.
They've all been tested. They passed a test on that.
And I cannot answer that 100% truth because I do not know if all of them took that swim test during their training.
So that's where, we kind of stopped this, and I said, I want to just hear about the water training. And there, we found out that they couldn't talk about that.
So why don't you know the answer to this question?
I could find those records. I don't know what that...
Why can't you answer this question?
I can, but that I don't know if all those answers. I would have to look at the training records to see if there was a
well, how could they be out on the water if they haven't completed your test? I mean, am I asking a question that there's no answer to?
She was, and some tell me that was because of pending litigation in the Ellingson case, while others in Highway Patrol say their commanders told them what to say during the hearings.
I honestly believe that had nothing to do with the troopers and had to do with people further up the chain of command.
Do you think something will happen there?
I hope it does, because if you can mismanage something this badly and get away with it, what's going to stop you from doing it the next time?
The committee is hoping there will not be a next time now that Highway Patrol has the recommendations. Those recommendations include appropriate levels of training and documentation of that training. Highway Patrol will add a captain to the Water Patrol Division with exclusive Water Patrol duties to oversee all of Missouri waterways. Franklin tells me to make sure Highway Patrol is following through with these changes. The committee will check back in 6 months and then again in 2 years. I do also want to point out for this story, I did reach out to those who are responsible for making sure Highway Patrol is following protocol. Patrol would not comment because of pending litigation, but neither would the Director of Public Safety. So I asked Governor Nixon what his thoughts are on the merger after learning this information. His spokesperson tells me Nixon supported the merger in 2011 and still supports it.